Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahak Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and in this video I'll be profiling an article from Radar Online titled "Former KGB Agent Gives Chilling Warning Vladimir Putin Could Trigger World War III with Accidental Nuclear Launch." And that's the point I wanted to hone in on, is where it says an accidental nuclear launch. And there will be no accidental nuclear launches when Russia shoots its missiles onto the U.S. during World War III. It's all going to be through the will of Yahweh Bahasham Yahabushai. A former KGB agent, former Jamoke, warned that Russia could cause World War III through an accidental launch due to the nation's poorly maintained nuclear arsenal, RadarOnline.com has learned. But hey, look at Russia right now with their hypersonic weapons. They're talking about a poorly maintained nuclear arsenal when Russia has those new hypersonic weapons, which the U.S. hasn't been able to replicate or compete with right now. I believe it was Lockheed Martin that was working on a hypersonic weapons project, but they had to shelve it because it just wasn't working out like Russia's hypersonic weapons program has worked out and has been shown to be heavily effective over in Ukraine right now. So best believe that their nuclear arsenal is not poorly maintained. Yahweh Bahasham Yahabushai has it perfectly maintained because it's going to be used to take down the United States of America. The 73-year-old former Russian sleeper agent Jack Barsky warned about the risk, or inevitability, of a nuclear apocalypse being higher than ever before, because we're living in the last seconds of these last days, the last seconds of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the biblical Edomites, or these so-called white people, before the second coming of Yahabushai, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus, who's going to put an end to these heathens' rulership, save the elect of the nation of Israel, the nation of Israel consisting of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the Israelite foreigners who look like these heathen nations, and begin establishing the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of Yasharallah, or Israel, which is going to be an eternal kingdom. Barsky claimed that the world had come close to Armageddon at least 3 times since the Cold War between Russia and the West. Now he fears that due to Russia's lack of maintenance, an accidental launch could bring us into the end times. I say with this article, you get the point. But let's just go into these precepts to show that, hey, it ain't going to be an accidental launch. It's going to be a purposeful launch through the will of Yahweh Bahasham Yahabushai, through the will of biblical prophecy. This is Ezekiel chapter 38. I'm going to start at verse 2. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, which is the biblical name for Russia, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And don't get it twisted. Just because the Most High is using Russia or Gog to destroy the United States of America with nuclear weapons during World War III doesn't mean that the Most High has a positive opinion of those Russian Edomites. He's simply using them to fulfill biblical prophecy, and then once that's done, Yahabushai and the 144,000 are going to take down Russia and the other remaining heathen nations after the dust settles. Verse 4, I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth. And that's the Most High putting that old confrontational Cold War Soviet Union spirit back on these Russian Edomites. Hence why you're seeing them fighting in Ukraine and setting up military bases all across the planet. and building up political and economic ties with these different countries to subvert the use of the US dollar. And I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And this is ultimately talking about Russia's military forces, their soldiers, tanks, fighter jets, helicopters, artillery pieces, etc., being gathered down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat in that Middle Eastern region for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat in Joel chapter 3, at the War of Armageddon, the main part of World War III. But we're already seeing instances of this with Russia's, army and horses and horsemen with all sorts of armor, handling swords and shields, so to speak, being gathered in Ukraine. And also you've got a Russian military presence in Syria, since they helped Bashar al-Assad fight back the U.S. and the State of Israel's proxy forces like ISIS during the Syrian civil war. Verse 5, Persia, which is the ancient name for Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, all of Russia's allies. And you can look up these different countries and see that as we speak, Russia has alliances and is building up deals with them, political, military, and economic ties. Verse 6, Gomer, which is a ancient name for Turkey and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them, an ally, a protector, Russia being that umbrella of defense over these smaller nations from the Western powers. But I just read through those verses to show you that this is talking about Russia. But now I'm going to jump to the point I wanted to get to in verse 10. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, it shall come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. The Most High is going to put it on the mind of these Russians to eventually turn those keys and shoot those nukes onto the United States of America. It's not going to be due to an accidental launch, due to a poorly maintained nuclear arsenal, as that former KGB agent said. Because like I've been saying all throughout the video, it's through the will of the Most High. And there is no such thing as free will, according to the scriptures. Everybody is playing their pre-assigned role that the Most High has them in this movie we call life, which is dictated by the scriptures. Real quick, this is Proverbs 21 verse 1. The king's heart or mind is in the hand of Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. And thou shalt put a thought into thy mind, and thou shalt have an evil thought. Isaiah 55 verse 11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. These prophecies of the scriptures going forth through the mouthpiece of the Most High, the prophets, out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this. And if you're in the spirit, you can clearly see that the Most High is dealing, primarily dealing, chiefly dealing with GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the brothers that come in the spirit of GMS. Because beginning with our apostles and elders on down, we're breaking down the scriptures, and the prophecies, and the precepts of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai in 144% truth and clarity. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, it shall come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. The king's heart or mind is in the hand of Yahweh, and he moveth it whithersoever he will. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates. And this scripture is twofold. On the one hand, it's talking about the land of Israel, and on the other hand, it's talking about the United States of America, because this truly is a place of unwalled villages. It doesn't have literal walls around its borders protecting it like ancient cities had. And also, these anti-missile defense systems that the United States of America has is ill-equipped to stop these advanced weapons that nations like Russia are going to use to shoot their nuclear missiles onto her. I will go to them that are at rest and that dwell safely. And just look at the average American out here. They don't pay attention to the news at all unless it's on social media and don't realize the gravity of the situation we're in. The U.S. is on the verge of a total economic collapse, bringing this place to a situation worse than the Great Depression. We're on the verge of severe food shortages, which are going to lead to famines of biblical proportions. Civil unrest, a state of martial law being implemented, World War III, and ultimately these nuclear missiles being fired onto this place. If it doesn't have to do with somebody's pronouns, the average American doesn't give a shit about it. That dwells safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. This place is going to be completely at the mercy of nations like Russia or Gog, as well as her allies, when the time comes for them to shoot those nuclear missiles onto this place, 200 million of which is going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. But now I'm going to go to Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, referring to World War I. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter. World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is quickly coming and will go nuclear. And the two main combatants are going to be the United States of America and Russia. This is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, Babylon the Great, the virgin daughter of Babylon, the mother of harlots, mystery Babylon in Revelation chapter 17, the United States of America, an assembly of great nations from the North Country being another name for Russia in the scriptures besides Gog. And it's known as the North Country because it's north of the United States of America. And it's a well-known fact that Russia shooting missiles from itself from the north across that Arctic Ocean region, which Russia also has military assets in that Arctic Ocean region, nuclear capable, to reach the U.S. would be the shortest trajectory time for those missiles to reach the U.S. And that assembly of great nations are not only Russia's allies, like China, Iran, North Korea, and Turkey, but also America's own allies, Britain, France, Germany, these other NATO nations that at some point during World War III are going to turn against her and ally themselves with that North Country, Russia, to help in shooting those 200 million nuclear missiles onto this place. Read Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, and the 10 horns, referring to the EU, which thou sawest upon the beast, NATO, these shall hate the whore that rides upon the beast, the United States of America, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, that nuclear fire. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows, those nuclear missiles, because what do nuclear missiles look like? Arrows being shot through the sky. And when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they didn't know what a modern day nuclear missile or ICBM was, so they had to describe it with what they knew during their times, ancient weapons of war. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man, none shall return in vain. Hey, all those missiles shot onto the U.S. are going to hit their targets. Just read Joel chapter 2, around the 7th and the 8th chapter. And they shall march in their ranks, and neither one shall break their formation. They shall reach their targets without any problems. And when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. And that sword is talking about these anti-missile defense systems, which the Most High is going to have failing that day, so those missiles can reach their targets without any problems, so they won't return in vain. But now I'm going to jump down to verses 41. Behold, a people shall come from the north, that North Country, Gog, Russia, and a great nation, And many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth, from the four corners of the earth, that assembly of great nations from the north country, not only Russia's allies, but America's own allies that are going to turn against her. They shall hold the bow and the lance, those nuclear weapons, and bows shoot arrows. So this is the launch platforms and silos for those missiles. They are cruel and will not shew mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, everyone put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon, that virgin daughter of Babylon. And when you go to Psalms 137, about verses 7 to 9, you'll see that these Edomites are synonymous with the daughter of Babylon. Now I'm going to jump up to verse 40. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof. And besides being known as the daughter of Babylon in the scriptures, the U.S. is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. And it should be self-evident why the U.S. is known as spiritual Sodom. This is the number one country that pushes that alphabet lifestyle onto the rest of the world through its social media and geopolitics. Just look at what happened with Uganda recently. They passed laws that heavily penalized and restricted that alphabet lifestyle over there. So the U.S. has put sanctions on them and said, we're not going to send vital medical aid to you until you change that anti-alphabet legislation. And the Most High overthrew ancient Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone from the sky. And he's going to overthrow this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah with modern fire and brimstone. Those 200 million nuclear missiles, those 200 million arrows, saith Yahweh. So shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. It's going to become an uninhabitable, desolate wasteland where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again. And we know this isn't talking about the ancient Neo-Babylonian Empire, which is in modern-day Iraq. Hey, you've got people dwelling there to this very day. After a time, only desert creatures are going to dwell here. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the island shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, point blank period. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. And after the dust settles, the former United States of America is going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel. Again, your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, primarily from Babylon, spiritual Sodom and Egypt, the United States of America. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.